Are you tired of New Year's resolutions and looking for a new way to improve your life this year? Well, keep listening as we discuss what we're doing differently. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Brittany Halford.
And I'm Dr. Alicia Taylor.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time. Before we dive into the episode, I want to take a moment to highlight a financial planning company that really impressed me. Bonafide Finance. Alicia and I recently met with the founder, Ben Martnick, and let me tell you, his approach to financial planning is different in all the right ways.
Yeah, that's right. Ben doesn't just want to grow your money. He wants to make sure your investments actually align with your life goals. And if that wasn't good enough, Ben is not only a certified financial planner, but he's also one of the smartest people I've met. He is the go-to for student loan strategy and tax planning, two areas most advisors overlook, especially for high-income earners. Ben is one of the only people I know that can actually do the calculations to help you figure out if you should file your taxes separately or jointly with your spouse, and also tell you how it might impact your student loan payments. Plus, him and his team will also file your individual tax returns for you and provide tax strategy throughout the year.
What I also love is he's fee only. So you always know exactly what you're paying for, and you don't have to worry about his company selling you products or charging you extra fees or commissions.
So if you want advice that's honest, strategic, and tailored to you, check out bonafidefinance.com/wealthmindedmd. Him and his team specialize in helping doctors and high-income earners build their net worth in all the right ways. Email him today at hello@bonafidefinance.com, and don't forget to tell him we sent you.
All right, Alicia, it's been a while since I've seen you or talked to you, girl. Tell us, tell the people, tell me what is going on in your life.
Yeah, well, first let's start off with how things have changed for me. 10 years ago, New Year's Eve, it was a time, honey. I would be dressed up in a dress that was probably too small and heels that were probably too high and staying out way too late and partying with my friends or being at a girlfriend's house and cheering to champagne or whatever. This year, girl, I was in comfy clothes in the house watching New Year's ball drop on TV and still feeling very fulfilled. Okay. I'm like, man, life has changed. So that's how I started off my new year. But right now, I am planning for my mom's birthday. By the time this episode drops, it will have passed. But my mom's birthday is like sort of right at the beginning of the year. And I'm always trying to think about what can I do special for her. She's not getting any younger. Neither of us are. And I think in 2025, it made me very aware of the fact that everybody doesn't still have living parents, let alone two of them that are fairly healthy. And I hope that that continues for a very long time, but I'm not oblivious enough to think that it's a guarantee. And so anytime that my parents are celebrating a birthday, I always think to myself, what can I do to kind of cherish these moments? So I got my mom some gifts, a few things that I felt like would make her smile. My mother loves former First Lady Michelle Obama. And so Michelle Obama has a new book out, but it's not like a traditional book. It's called like a lookbook with her different outfits that she wore in the White House and all of these things. So I felt like it would be a nice coffee table book and something my mom can kind of flip through when she's bored at the house. So I got her that. I got her a dress, and I have the same exact one in it, like a different color. She loves when we match. It makes her very happy. So I bought her and I matching dresses to wear. I'm going to take her out to lunch. I'd gotten her like a nice purse. I could tell she was really happy about it. And so her birthday has already passed as we're recording this, but we're celebrating it together this upcoming weekend. And so I'm going to take her out. We're going to spend a little mother-daughter day, a little bit different from what you and Brooke do. But I'm excited to kind of celebrate my mom in this way and to kind of start her new year off right.
I love that. And I remember, I think you shared some pieces of this during a last episode about how you're spending your money for fun. So I'm glad that you actually spent the money and, and you're bringing a lot of joy to your mother. And that lookbook is phenomenal. We have that on our coffee table. So that is a great gift of our first lady, our forever first lady, as Brooke calls her. Michelle Obama. So love that. I hope that you all have a really great time. And Alicia, you're so right talking about how things look differently in the new year. I didn't watch the ball drop. I was literally like signing notes. I was reading and signing notes, and my husband's writing this book. So he read the first chapter or whatever of his book and was like, oh, it's 12:04. Oh, well, happy New Year. Yeah, it is really interesting how things change as you get older. But I'm grateful that you have an awareness of the time and you are creating a lot of joy in the time that you have and really just celebrating rest and being at home in your pajamas and not being cold and have on too small shoes and your feet hurting. So, all of the great things.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, times have changed. I feel a little old, but I'm like, I'm still young at heart.
Well, Alicia, as we're talking about the new year and what we discussed on last episode is goals are still in formation for me for this new year. And I'm still really working on how can I optimize my life? How can I make things more efficient so that they're happening in the background and they're working for me without me actually having to do the work, without me having to do the mental work, without me having to do the physical work. And I can add in a little bit more rest and ensuring that the actions that I'm taking are actually aligned with my values. So I wanted to continue this episode because at the end of 2025 and even now as we enter into 2026, this is work that will be ongoing throughout my year. So I wanted to get your take. I love learning from you and love to get maybe some perspectives that I need to shift or other ways that I can think about this optimization process.
Yeah, well, I have thoughts. I have thoughts, okay? I have multiple thoughts. One of my thoughts is how you talked about wanting to optimize things. And one of the things that I've realized about my own life, sometimes for me personally, my desire to optimize things sometimes conflicts with my desire to simplify things. When it comes to investing, I could optimize my investing and do this and this and this, but it requires more work versus sometimes if I just put things on auto pay or auto draft or whatever, it's simpler. And it's like if I did that extra thing, I could optimize things more, but that extra thing requires more work. So then it's like my desire for optimization is at odds with my desire for simplicity. And the realm of investing, when it comes to, investing in a taxable brokerage account and rebalancing your portfolio or doing tax loss harvesting or some of these other things. It's like, if you want to do that, then you're going to have to change how you invest and you're going to have to buy different things that are somewhat similar, but not the exact same and switch them out and all of those things. And it's like, okay, that would optimize my investing, but is that 0.01% of optimization worth the extra time and the hassle? For me, I try to optimize things by putting expenses on a credit card. And some of the expenses I put on a credit card are like my utilities. Well, some of the utilities, if you want to have it on auto pay, you can't have it on auto pay and pay with a credit card. It can only be on auto pay if it drafts from your bank account. So then it's like, all right, my desire to optimize credit card points by putting the spend on a credit card is directly at odds with my desire for simplicity, which would be me having it on auto draft. Now, not every utility company is that way, but do you get what I'm saying? And even when I'm trying to optimize things, I'm constantly agonizing over what is the most optimal decision. And it takes me so long to then make a decision that even though I've made the correct one, I'm less
Mm,
happy because I spent so much time trying to figure out what the correct decision was. And so again, it's like, okay, I want to optimize things. I want to optimize things to get the most out of everything. But when is enough enough? Like, what is
mhm.
good enough? Am I optimizing to my own detriment or to my own displeasure? And so it's really me thinking about in what areas do I want to optimize and how optimal do I want to be, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, Leisha, I think you are speaking to a great point. It's like the effort that it takes for you to reach that point of optimization, not only the time that you're physically doing the task, but also the mental planning that it takes. I wholeheartedly hear you. I think that for me, that's one of the reasons why maybe I haven't done this is because there's just so many other things that are taking priority. And I also recognize that by taking some time to sit down to plan, right? Okay, these are the things that are giving me the most stress. And that's kind of where we started with the last episode. So if you haven't listened to that last episode, definitely go back. It's like, what is causing the financial stress and pressure? What are the areas of our lives that are misaligned? Because if I think about what is that open loop that I continue to think about, that task that just, oh, dang, I got to do that. Dang, I got to do that. Dang, that takes time and energy and creates stress in my brain and in my body. And so that's kind of where I'm focusing is like, what are those things that are like, I got to do that. I need to get this off my to-do list so I can say that it's optimized. So, for example, one thing is I'm helping my grandparents. We've gotten to the age where grandchildren are taking things over. So I'm helping my grandparents with, we could do a whole episode on this, but their life insurance issues. Every time I call, I have to call my grandfather so that he can verify because I'm not on the policy, is not my policy. If I would just take the time to fill out the third party authorization so I can do the things like take the time to fill out the online form so that I can go online and set it up auto pay and to do all of those things so that every time I need to make a change or every time there's an issue with this policy, I could just get it done and I can handle it instead of having to call him. That's a priority. I want to help my grandparents. They're very important to me. I want to make sure that this is done properly to ensure that whoever remains after one of them passes away is supported and financially stable and we don't have to have another headache on the other end. So it's like some of those types of tasks that you really just have to carve out the time for that I am starting to plan. So I know actually on Thursday, that's going to be my goal. I'm going to spend 2 to 3 hours filling out all the paperwork, getting all that stuff submitted so it takes less time to manage. And I could do, as you said, to put it on auto pay so that I don't have to worry about it. And I know that the insurance is being paid for and it's less energy and less straining for me.
I have more thoughts. Sometimes I feel like important tasks are energy draining for me when I haven't had the proper rest prior to starting that task, or if I'm going from task to task to task. And I think I had mentioned this in my 2025 reflections. One of the things I'm learning is that I need to build in quote unquote inefficient time to just think and ponder. Because when I have that time, then I can sort of think through problems. How can I best do this? Or how can I do this in a different way? And then when I have that inefficient time, if you will, when it's time for me to actually do a task, I'm more mentally prepared and ready for it. I'm less exhausted. So, for example, if I've got a meeting from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., instead of booking my next meeting from 10 to 11, I might book my next meeting at 10:30 or book my next meeting at 11 just to say, okay, now this gives me a chance to decompress. If there are tasks that I need to complete from the first meeting, I have time to actually do them. If I want to just take a walk and get outside and get some fresh air, I have time to do that. If I need a plan before the next meeting, now I'm prepared for the next meeting. You get what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that I've done to help me feel less overwhelmed. The other thought that I had is similar to something that you had said earlier, which is around the thought of like me rethinking goals and goal setting at the beginning of the year. It's like, what is the purpose of me doing these goals and having a resolution? What is the purpose of the goal? Is the purpose of the goal for me to actually achieve the goal, or are goals really put in place to change behavior and change direction? I think goals more set direction. And even if you don't achieve the full goal, if you've at least changed your behavior to be in the right direction, that might have been all you needed. For example, somebody sets a goal of saying, I want to lose 30 pounds. Are you going to say that you failed if you only lost 28? Or was your goal to simply get healthier? And in that thought, then you've kind of like set your behavior, you've changed direction. And sometimes when we are trying to achieve a goal, we realize, actually, I don't want to lose 30 pounds. I know now what sacrifice that requires, and I'm actually good with 25. For me, it's like, all right, what behaviors, what new directions do I want to go in this year? And when I think about it like that, it's like, okay, I'm currently spending 20% of my time doing this, some of my time doing that, some of my time doing this other thing. Is that the same direction that I want to go in this year? And if not, how can I slightly change behavior? How can I slightly change things? All right, I set a goal to, I don't know, invest $50,000 this year. As long as I've invested a good amount, I'm still in the right direction. So it's putting a little less pressure on myself. And then for the things that I think are really important to me, it's not enough just to set this overarching goal and to continue the same behavior. It's like I need to set an overarching goal or set an overarching direction that I want to go in, and then have little time points throughout the year of when I want to achieve them so that I can make sure that I'm maintaining that direction. If one of your things is like, okay, I need to take things off of my plate in 2026, I felt too overwhelmed in 2025, maybe then it's saying, all right, I'm going to put times on my calendar every month, an hour or two, that is like, I'm going to book it on my calendar so I don't book anything else. And I'm going to use that time to reflect on how I'm spending my time so that each month I have a check-in and I can say, all right, am I still eliminating things, or am I still going in the right direction? I know that was a very long monologue, but hopefully you got something out of that.
Not a monologue at all. I always appreciate hearing your insights. The time audit is really important. As you mentioned, with optimizing your investments, for what margin, how much time are you going to put into it for what percentage of gain with that optimization? And I think sometimes we often forget that there are various forms of currency, and my time and my energy, like how much at peace am I with the work that I'm doing? How does it feel? Is this a temporary pain, which I can endure? And I'm a resilient girl. We flinch strong over here, So like I can endure temporary pain, or is this a long-term pain that I see consistent patterns that are recurring that I need to change? And so I appreciate that it's not so much about the goal goal, but also just getting us to, as we say on this podcast, create the life that you desire, create the life that you want to live again. And using your time and doing a time audit, I think, is one of the most effective ways that you can create goals and that you can be reflective, because that time that you're spending is linked to financial gain or financial ruin. You know, if you're so burned out that now you're making mistakes at work and you get fired, with hell, you ain't got an income. So how are you going to build a generational wealth without an income? So maybe that's going to be a moment of pause and reflection for you. Maybe it's not the job that was aligned. And so things happen. And I do believe that doors close without us planning them, but they close for a reason and divine intervention. So, you know, it just really depends on where you fall. Felicia, thinking about how I created goals in 2025 and reflecting on those goals, I was having this conversation with my husband. Initially, I put that we were going to purchase 2 rental properties. We purchased 0.
But did you go in the right direction with your finances, though?
We have acquired a business, right? And so we purchased something that will generate passive income once we get it to the point at which it is optimized. Like, we're not going to be working in the business, we will be working on the business. And that was the goal. That was the thread there. How can we create more passive, like, because no passive income is effectively like completely passive, right? But passive like income for us. I had a goal to run the 10-mile race with my dad at a 9-minute per mile pace. Did I run at 9 minutes per mile? No, but I ran the 10 miles, right? And so it still got me to being more consistent with my running and to ensure health and wellness and connection with my dad, and then continuing this tradition of running this crime race in my hometown, and also showing my children that you can run too and you could do this consistently. And this is a goal that mommy is working towards. So I wholeheartedly believe that setting the goals are important because it does instill a direction. If you do not write them down, if you do not check in on them, if you do not even process where you're going, then you end up going nowhere. And so in 2026, as we're having this conversation, another one of those open loops in my brain is, Brittany, you haven't written down your goals yet. And so I'm still processing, okay, I need to have these goals on my board so that I can see, oh, girl, you still haven't done that. You need to go and work out or whatever it might be, whatever that goal is, to have a visual reminder of the behaviors and the actions that are required for me to become a better version of myself and to take control over creating a life that I want to live again.
You know, sometimes it's not about growth, it's about maintaining. I was reminded of that when you were talking because I'm like, sometimes we're in phases of our life where they're growth phases and we're like, I want to get better, want to invest more, want to do this X, Y, and Z. But sometimes we get to stages of our lives where there's so much going on. It's like, I just need to keep my head above water this year. If I can maintain the investments, if I can maintain the savings, if I can maintain my sanity, I'm going to call that a successful 2026. Recognizing like when you're in that, I just need to maintain and keep my head above water stage, and when you're in that growth stage and not necessarily feeling like a failure if this year is not necessarily your growth year. You've got 2 young kids, you've got a husband, you've got grandparents you're trying to keep alive, and all of these things. You've got a job, you've got businesses. It's a lot. When I think about all the things you do, and I myself feel overwhelmed, right? And I'm just talking about it. And so maybe this is for maintenance. Maybe this is your year to say, you know what? I don't need to make X amount of more dollars. I don't need to invest this thing. I don't need to put more things on my plate. I'm okay with the things I currently have. Yes, there are other people doing other things and I am happy for them, but I'm going to stay where I am. And the other thing I was thinking about was, do we sometimes optimize for the wrong things? And I think about this all the time when I catch myself comparing myself to some of my peers who make more money than me, but also work more than I do. And sometimes I think about, should I get a different job that pays me more? Then I have to stop myself and say, okay, Alicia, are you optimizing for the wrong thing? Like, is your goal to make as much money as possible? In which case you're going to change your behavior to meet that goal. If I said my goal this year was to make the most money possible, then I would work way more than I possibly need to in order to make more money. But is that really going to make me happy? So am I optimizing for the wrong thing, money, or am I optimizing for a different thing, which is I want to feel fulfilled in my life. And a part of that fulfillment is actually having free time. And I'm willing to sacrifice some of the money that I could make in order to have more free time. And in my case, just a little bit more rest. It's reminding myself, okay, I don't maybe make as much as other people, but I still make enough for me to live a decent quality of life. And I have more time. And at this stage of my life, the time is more valuable. The time is what I desire. And so just reminding myself of what am I optimizing for? Am I feeling this way because I'm optimizing for the wrong thing? And if so, I need to redirect myself.
Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment. Life has phases, right? And some phases are growth and some phases are maintenance. Or maybe the graph looks like you've plateaued, but actually you're just exchanging one for the other and you're at a moment where this feels good. I wholeheartedly appreciate that. And for me, I think I am more in that maintenance phase, but the growth that I desire is the peace and the time and the energy back. And so that's why I'm thinking about how can I ensure that the actions that I'm taking are aligned with my core values? How can I optimize some of these processes that are already in place so that they can be more efficient without consuming my time and my energy, whether that's employing someone else to do them for me, using AI tools, things of that nature. And of course, my mom always says, Rome wasn't built overnight. So I wholeheartedly get that. But, the first step that I have started to take is do an audit. So we talked about time audits, but then also financial audits. I have this app called Rocket Money app, which basically I'm sure you all have seen the ads and they're not sponsoring this podcast. But if somebody wants to say, hey, Rocket Money, you should sponsor Brittany and Alicia's podcast, then feel free. We appreciate that. And so basically you upload all of your data. And Alicia, I don't know where you stand. Some people are like, I don't want to give them access to all of my stuff. There's all these data breaches and all of that. So I get that there is some privacy issues there and protections, but it essentially does an audit of all of your subscriptions. And for me, this is helpful because I am partnered and my husband has his own credit cards and he's signing up for his own subscriptions and all of the things. And so it allowed me a few minutes to understand what things are recurring expenses that we are not mindful of. Again, to align our actions and our spending with our values. So I sent a screenshot of those subscriptions to my husband. I said, which three of these could you do away with without it sacrificing a moment of joy or adding additional complexity and difficulty in your life? And he was like, oh, we could get rid of this one, get rid of that one, get rid of that one. And apparently on the app, you can just click a button and they'll cancel it for you. It's not as easy as they market it to be. Sometimes they can't do it, but at least now we have an awareness of what things we need to unsubscribe from. And so there will be a moment, we haven't done this yet, where I'm like, okay, baby, I need 30 minutes of your time. Let's tackle these. Let's sign in and let's click the cancel button for these subscriptions that we've already identified. And that should save us at least $1,200 this year because the summation of the subscriptions are probably like $100 a month. Now, in the grand scheme of things, with how much we're making, is $1,200 a lot of money? No. But when I think about, okay, we could pay for this one thing that we're currently paying for, then it does seem helpful. And then it also creates the behavior, as you mentioned, of being more mindful of what we're subscribing to and ensuring that those expenses are not just silent leaks where we can therefore invest that $100, extra $100 a month in our kids' 529 accounts and allow compounding interest to work for us.
I like that. I like that. Now, sometimes I go back and forth of I can afford this thing. Is it really a big deal? But then I forget, kind of like you said, when I think about the yearly cost or the annual cost of that subscription, it does kind of add up. Sometimes I get caught in the loop of it's just $15 a month, and I forget, oh wow, that $15 a month is actually X amount of dollars per year. Would I actually spend that much per year on this? Probably not. And so I need to remind myself of the full cost of things because if not, I can let these little ancillary costs go. Then it sort of adds up at the end. So I like that in terms of trying to optimize some of your expenses. What are some other things that you're trying to evaluate and optimize for besides your subscriptions, Brittany?
I'm not one who watches the market because I don't have time for that. But I am aware of when interest rates drop and when interest rates rise. And so one of the things that I've been considering that I have not taken action on yet is just looking at our debt profile. We've paid down all of our student loan debt. So that's one area to consider if you're listening to this, but also what other forms of debt do we have? So we have mortgages, a substantial amount of debt that we have, and then we've taken out and leveraged some loans for this business. And so I'm thinking, is there an opportunity because now the Fed fund rate has dropped? Is that going to reflect to mortgage interest rates? And if so, how can I maybe refinance our mortgage again, especially because we just purchased our home? We purchased it in June 2024. So we're not even 2 years in yet. So restarting that amortization clock, which basically how mortgages works is like the mortgage company front loads a lot of that interest in the first few years of you signing on for your mortgage. Your monthly payment might be $5,000, right? And 4,500 of your payment actually goes to paying off the interest and only $500 goes towards paying off the principal. When you refinance, you restart that clock where majority of the payments go towards the interest and very little touches the principal. But because we're only 2 years into this mortgage, then restarting that clock is not going to have a dramatic difference on how the payments are proportionately applied. And so I'm thinking if I can decrease our interest rates by another 0.75%, how much money could that save us? And so I've done the calculations. It'll only save us about $700 a month. But again, thinking about cumulative over time, like $700 a month is a lot of money per year. And then now I have more cash flow. If I wanted to make the same payment, then I could apply that same payment towards the mortgage and bring down the interest even more because now that all of that additional payment that I was already making is now just going towards the principal, decrease this 30-year mortgage to maybe like us paying it off in 15 years. And so just thinking about the long-term gain and flexibility of that to have our home paid off in 15 years. Now, maybe I don't want to apply the debt. Maybe I don't want to apply the cash flow here. Maybe I want to use it as an opportunity to buy another property or to own something else. And in 2026, we're not doing that, okay? Not for Brittany, but I'm just sharing that by kind of making some of these moves for optimization, they create space. They create that margin that we talked about in the prior episode that allows for you to do more, to have more, to own more, or maybe just relax more, you know?
Yeah, I get you. And I think as you are thinking about refinancing your mortgage, I know some people are thinking about refinancing their student loans. Now, it's different if you have federal loans versus if you have private loans, right? Maybe you're going for some sort of federal student loan forgiveness program, so you don't want to refinance. But for those who have a good chunk of private loans, now might be the time to start considering refinancing your private student loans. And so I hear what you're saying. Just carving out some time in your schedule to say, am I optimizing this thing? You don't have student loans, but other people do. And they might be thinking about, okay, I am paying X amount of dollars per month. Maybe I can actually refinance or switch companies or whatever and pay even less per month or get a lower interest rate. So I like what you're saying there is restructuring your loans or any debt that you might have so that you can optimize things that way. All right, you're optimizing subscriptions, aka canceling the ones you don't want. You're optimizing your debt, aka restructuring it or thinking about refinancing. What else are you optimizing?
So the last thing that I'm thinking about is do I fully understand the tax implications of each asset that I own? And how does it help me? How did it help me? And should I shift? And when I'm talking about assets, not just the physical assets, but also the accounts that we're investing in. And we've talked about this before. We use 457Bs to really help us to essentially put more money away in a tax deferred account. So pre tax, so we save money on taxes today, but then it's also tax deferred growth for retirement. And if you haven't listened to our 457B episode, it's a phenomenal episode and we'll link it in the show notes. It's a governmental 457B. So it's some risk there that my husband and I are taking. And we've taken that risk for years because we've needed to. But now this year, we will be able to, with this business that we've purchased, and I'll just drop it here. We could talk about the details in a whole nother episode, but we purchased a laundromat. We're basically renovating and purchased all of these new equipment with this one big beautiful bill act, the Trump bill. Basically, we could take 100% bonus depreciation. So that means $300,000+ that will be deducted from our taxes this year. And so we've used the 457B as like a tax shelter, but we actually don't need that tax shelter this year. And so it's just thinking about, okay, well, now we don't have to put that money away because we're going to save on taxes. Now, could we use that extra cash flow to do some of the other things that we want to do and then go back to the 457B investments in 2027? When you start something, you have a reason for starting it and you want to be clear on the plan and like why you're investing in various assets. And you want to try to make them very efficient for that moment. But just understand that you don't have to continue that plan as your life changes. And this is the thought that I'm considering now is like, how has our life changed and evolved? And the things that we were previously owning, investing, and using, does it serve us to optimize our life now?
Yeah, I like that. You're like, hey, I'm already going to get a tax deduction on this other thing. So I really don't need to put the money in this other thing and I can change things up. Because I agree with you. I think we can get on autopilot and we can forget why we're doing things and we can miss areas and opportunities to optimize things in our investing as you mentioned. I know someone else which is a little bit different where maybe they were putting money in their HSA account each year because they had a high deductible health plan and they're like, "You know what, Leisha, this year's going to be a big expense year for me." One of my friends is actually having a baby, so she changed health insurance plans. Like, I want a regular plan. I'm going to put a lot of money in my FSA this year, just thinking about now that she's like doing something different this year, aka having a baby. She needs to optimize things in a different way. I know somebody else who also has the opportunity to invest in a 457B at their job, but they just started a business and they also have a solo 401k. And they're thinking to themselves, instead of putting money in the 457B, which technically belongs to my employer, let me actually maximize the amount of money I can put in my solo 401k because that I can control and that has more investment options and a little bit more flexibility. Again, if we stay on autopilot and continue to invest and save in the ways that we've always done that, we might miss opportunities to optimize. Now, of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, we really have to weigh, am I trying to optimize or am I trying to simplify? And those sometimes are not synonymous. Sometimes optimization takes a little bit of time to think about and do things a little bit differently, but it might save us time in the back end. And so I think really, if I had to summarize this for me, it's taking myself off of autopilot and re-examining why I'm doing the things I'm doing, why I'm paying for things the way that I'm paying for them, how I am repaying debt, how I am investing, how I'm living my life. And so that's sort of my big takeaway.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the autopilot, it's one of the things that makes things simple in some regards, but again, it's like the temporary pain for the long-term gain. And I think that this is a temporary pain that I'm willing and I would encourage everybody to kind of take. Maybe you're not going to do it all in one fall swoop. Maybe it's going to be that you break it up. And honestly, I would encourage that you break it up. Just write down, okay, well, looking at my subscriptions, thinking about the things, the investments that I own, are they still serving me? Are they aligned with my energy, my core values, and where I want to be? This maintenance phase could just be a give and take. It's that you're letting something else go to accept something else. And so that's how you're staying kind of in this plateau. It might seem like it takes more energy to do the thing, but honestly, I think it's worth doing. My mother says anything worth having is worth working for. And so I think that this is, as you mentioned, Leisha, like establishing the goal to set the behavior, looking at our finances every single year and evaluating these things every single year will ensure that your finances are aligned with your values and are fulfilling to the life that you really want. All right, Leisha. Well, girl, we talked a lot about optimizing and, you talked about simplicity and all of the things. And so now I think I want to just talk about some fun. How are you spending your money for fun?
Well, I just got new headphones. Actually got 2 sets of headphones, so I don't know if that's overkill or not. I previously had some AirPod Pros, and I had the original AirPod Pros. I think I've had them for 4 years now or something like that. It's been a long time. At the end of 2025, I noticed that one of them, just the sound was not coming through very well. It was staticky. I knew that I was gonna buy some new AirPod Pros, and the newest ones out there now will translate things in a foreign language for you, and I do a lot of international travel. One of the gifts that my cousin bought me in our Christmas gift exchange was some new AirPod Pros. I told him, I was like, just give me some new headphones. And he did, and I like them a lot. So that's one pair. And then I was using the new AirPod Pros when I was running, and I noticed that when I was stretching and kind of bending over, one of them would fall out of my ear. And that has happened periodically, and I've just sort of accepted it. But one of my credit cards has this Dell credit. You can buy things from Dell Technologies and get like $150 off or $200 off. And I really also like the brand of Bose headphones. And Bose has it's not an over the ear headphone. It's almost like an AirPod, but it actually attaches to the back of your ear as well. So it can stay in place when you're running and stretching and bending over and working out. And I thought, oh, wow, let me try those. I have this credit, so it's not going to cost me that much. These might actually be the headphones that I run in. So I just ordered those and I am excited to try them. And so that is me spending money for fun, 2 new sets of headphones.
Leisha, I love that. And we didn't talk about credit card optimization. That's another thing that I want to focus on. So we should do another episode on that.
Yeah.
I love that. Maybe I should spend my fun money on some new headphones as well, but I haven't spent my money on it yet. So I'll let you know if I use that Dell credit. I actually did the thing and I got my eyebrows nano bladed.
They look great.
Thank you. So this is day 2.
They're going to be peeling.
Yeah. So I will be peeling. They will be like less dark in the upcoming weeks, but it's just, again, like, how can I show up and not have the preoccupation of, oh, my eyebrows look a mess and, oh, I got to go to the salon or not. And so removing that step by just making a small investment of time and energy, but just all at once and a little bit of money. I got it on discount, but this should last for 14 months about, I think, and it will just make me show up in a more polished way.
I like it. Yeah. For a lot of women, especially, it's like they don't want to wake up and have to do a ton of makeup or a ton of stuff to their face. And so if they can just simplify one thing, optimize one thing, it would make their life easier. And I feel like eyebrows are one of those things that seems like it shouldn't be a big deal, but can really elevate your face
Hmm.
when done well. As yours are, because you're looking at me and you look great. So I am happy for you. I can't wait to see how it is. Now, there's a little peeling stage. It's going to be interesting. But once
Okay.
you get past that, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Okay. Thank you for the forewarnings. I'm like, oh, Alicia said it's going to be great. Again, temporary pain for long term gain.
Yeah.
We want to say thank you for rocking with us in 2025. And we just wish you a lot of prosperity in 2026. And we are very grateful for your time, for your energy, and for listening to this podcast. If you could do us a solid and leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, that will help us to reach more people and accomplish one of our goals of growing our podcast this year. So if you have benefited at all from listening to us and listening to this episode, please share with a friend and give it a thumbs up. And we can't wait to see you in the next episode.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittany Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisa Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.